there are no gays in Douglas County.
I think there's gays in pretty much every county in the state.
No, it's a Republican county. It doesn't.
There are gays that are Republicans. I know it's shocking.
No, it can't be. I tell you, it can't be.
It's possible.
Mark Ferrandino is the new minority leader of the state house. Welcome, and the first openly homosexual male minority leader.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Now, Jen Viega was lesbian, and she was
the House Minority Leader in '03. And then she moved over to the Senate, and Andrew Romanoff came in.
So you know, it's been done. You know, there's nothing. You know, you think it's special. It's been
special.
Done. Nothing been done. Yeah. So you can't even put that on your resume. You weren't even first.
No.
You got beat by a girl. You got beat by a girl.
If I had to be beat by someone, Jen Vega is not a bad person to be beat by.
I don't know. Yeah, she's kind of cute. All right, let's get into this coming session. Yeah. Now, Sal Pace was the minority leader, and Democrats have a one-vote deficit in the state house. So, I mean, Republicans and Democrats, it is very, very tight. Republicans hoped last time around that they would pick up a bunch of seats, and they would have about a 4-seat majority. They only have one tiny little seat. And so that makes it really easy. All you need to do is get one of them to come your way, and it changes everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think when you looked at the wave nationally in 2010, it kind of stopped in Colorado. While Republicans did well, they didn't do as well as they've done in other states. And so we lost the majority by about 170 to 190 votes in one seat. It's really close. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's actually good because we have to work across the aisle. When you talk to people, they want partnership, not partisanship. And so last session, while we fight, we disagree. When you look at the budget, for example, almost 80% of the legislature voted to pass the budget last session, one of the highest we've seen while we're facing one of the most difficult budgets over the last couple of years as well. So people were able to come together, find solutions. You know, Colorado tends to be a state where Democrats and Republicans work pretty well together.
On most issues.
Yeah. We disagree on things, and we're going to have our partisan issues that we're not going to be able to come together with, but overall, I think actually we solve a lot of problems together.
Let's talk about the big partisan issue of civil unions and gay marriage. Now, Republicans took it on the chin last term because they couldn't get it out of one of their committees. And if it got out of that committee, this was civil unions, not gay marriage. If it got out of that committee, the way I counted the votes, and tell me if I'm wrong, it would have passed.
My understanding from talking to several of my colleagues, depending if it got sent to more committees, but if it went to the floor, we had well over somewhere between 3 and 8 Republicans who would have voted for it. So, and the Democrats.
Weren't there some Democrats that were going to say no to it?
No, there wasn't a single Democrat. Actually,
Not a
single Democrat in the state house who was going to be against it, just like the Senate. In the Senate, it passed with every Democrat, and 20% of the Republicans, all female Republicans in the Senate, voted for the bill.
There's a lesbian joke there, but I am so classy. I'm just letting it slide.
It's rare of you.
Yeah, it's the new me. So so it was really just the House committee it was sent to that bottled it up. If that didn't happen, it would have passed. And of course, the governor has signaled that he would sign such a thing. If that happened, we would have been the second state in the union to pass a civil unions bill, a civil unions law, after New York, right?
New York has passed it. New Jersey has a version of civil unions. Illinois has a version of civil unions. There's several more states, and California, before Prop 8 and that whole issue, had a version.
But a lot of those were, some of them were court ordered, including the one in Massachusetts.
Right. So New York and Illinois were, I believe, the only other two that have been through the legislature. So we'd be probably either the third or fourth, depending upon. I don't remember exactly.
Let me ask you this, because it seems to be, I think, a liability for Republicans reaching into swing voters districts. That this is an issue that Republicans, social conservatives, really have a hard time with. I understand that, and you have a group that's been trying to push it in the middle. As slowly as the demographics change, younger people as they get older aren't as concerned with it as their parents were, but. This wasn't a Republican thing. If 100% of the Democrats voted for it, I remember a year before that where you had all Democrats in the legislature, on the House and in the Senate, and a Democratic governor who was more than willing to sign it. Matter of fact, you had, what, 4 years of that, and now I'm hearing these catcalls of, you lousy Republicans, you don't want us to have civil unions. So let me throw it back. You Democrats had 4 years that you could have had it at the drop of a hat. You had all the votes. Why didn't it pass then? Was it not introduced?
It wasn't introduced in any of those years.
Why not?
Hindsight's 2020.
Oh, come on, hindsight's 2020. You were there.
I know.
Why didn't you put it on?
Well, if you look at the legislation we have been doing over the last 4 years, one, we have to remember in '06. We had both Ref I and the marriage amendment on the ballot. The marriage amendment passed to define it as a man and a woman, and Ref I failed. And so I think there was...
Just so people know, so we made it a constitutional issue that only one man and one woman can get married in Colorado. Married.
Right.
There was a civil unions initiative that failed.
Correct.
All right.
And so I think there was a lot of people.
You telling me that you Democrats are pansies and you couldn't pass the bill then because the people voted the other way?
I think we needed time to educate people. We did domestic partnership, designated beneficiaries I carried, which gave
Educate people? I'm insulted.
You know, it's about changing public opinion. You said it exactly before, that the public opinion is changing every day. We looked at polls this last couple months, came out that 80% of Coloradans support recognition of same-sex couples, and I believe it's about 43% support actually same-sex marriage. It's changing significantly, quickly, and for the first time this year, we're seeing in the United States that gay marriage is actually supported by a majority of Americans throughout the country. So the public opinion is shifting quickly on that. So from where we were in '06 to where we are in 2011, 2012 has made a huge change. And we just saw actually yesterday, there was a story that broke that there's a leading Republicans coming out in support of civil unions. Sometime in January, groups with people like Rob Whitwer and other prominent Republicans.
Nancy Spence, the senator.
Right, well, and she voted for it. And so...
You calling her a lesbian?
No, I think I love Nancy.
I know
She's
her.
great.
How dare you call my friend a lesbian? All right, but I want to get to this to the political side, that the finger pointing, and after this got stymied in a committee last year on a partisan vote, and it didn't advance to the floor, there was a lot of finger pointing. You Republicans, you won't even allow this to be a vote. But where was the comeback where we said, hey, we could have done this last year? I want the mea culpa, and I want to make sure that if it gets stymied again, that it's not this political football of you bastard Republicans, you wouldn't do it. You guys had 4 years and you wouldn't do it.
So
talk about no leadership.
This is what I would say, that we should have run it in 2010. I don't disagree with that, but we didn't. I think we made a mistake. Hindsight, as I said, is 2020. Looking back at it, it probably was.
Why didn't you or somebody else do it in 2010? Was it something that from above that said, listen, we don't know if Colorado's ready for it. We're not going to put a new Democratic potential. We didn't know at that point if Ritter was going to run for re-election or not. You know, we're not going to put Ritter on the line, passing something that the people of Colorado 4 years earlier shot down.
And I think there was conversations with then Governor Ritter around that, and I think he was looking at what happened in '06 and what was going to happen, and has the public opinion shifted enough? And I think people didn't feel comfortable that the public opinion had shifted enough by 2010. Going into 2011, you saw Don't Ask, Don't Tell at the national level being repealed. You saw significant changes in states like New York, while Illinois passed it before us. And so I think people felt there was the momentum to do it. Did we make a mistake not to run it in 2010? I think that's probably the case. We should have probably run it in 2010. But at the same point, when it came to the floor or the committee in 2011, you know, every member has an up or down vote, has the option to vote their conscience on what they believe, and you know, it ended up being a party line vote on that issue, and I don't think you can get away from that. That was a party line vote, and the thing is, which is frustrating, that it's not a party line vote in terms of where public opinion is. 60% of people who are self-described as conservatives say they support civil unions.
Who put forward the bill last year that got stymied in committee?
Senator Stedman introduced it in the Senate, and I was the House sponsor. Okay. And we're going to...
And let me toss out a couple conspiracy theories here.
Okay.
First of all, is it possible that this issue is a good political issue for Democrats because then Republicans seem obstructionist. In other words, is there anyone on the Democratic side playing politics going, if it gets stymied again next year in 2012, that's just going to give us more of an opportunity to say, this is why we need to bring back the leadership to the Democrats?
This is an issue that's very personal as a gay man for me. What I want to see it happen is this to pass and become law. So if Republicans do it, I'm going to be happy and embrace them for doing it. If not, I'm going to continue to fight to show the people of Colorado that there is a difference between the two parties on this and that elections have consequences. But when it comes to what happens in the 2012 session that's coming up, what's my preference? I want that bill to pass. I want to get to the governor's desk so that I can have the legal protections, and gay couples across the state can have the legal protections for them and their children. More and more gay couples are having kids, either through adoption or other methods. And what this bill, and most importantly does, and Senator Roberts said this exactly on the Senate floor and in committee, is it provides the protections for kids so that whatever happens to the relationship between the two adults, the kids are protected through a dissolution process that makes sure that both parents need to be responsible.
Nice way to say divorce. Dissolution.
Yes.
Very good. Very lawyerly.
And I'm not even a lawyer.
Are there any in your party or strategize for your party that say, if it doesn't get passed, it's good for us, and therefore hoping it doesn't get past this next session?
I have not heard from anyone who doesn't want it to get passed. Do they see that it is an issue in terms of people looking at it? Of course, but everyone I've talked to says, we want this to pass this year. We are going full court to get it passed. We've been working, One Colorado, which is the organization lobbying for this, has been working all summer and all interim to get people to talk to their legislators throughout the state, and especially in the districts where they're on the Judiciary Committee, to make sure we get it passed. We're doing everything to get it passed this year.
Less than 2 minutes left here. Let's put it in high gear.
Yeah.
What happens if it doesn't get passed? Will there be an initiative, a citizens' initiative, as there was in 2006? It'll be 6 years later. I can't believe it's been 6 years.
I know.
It'll be 6 years later, and you're telling me, well, the people of Colorado in polls say they want it. So I'm assuming if it fails in the legislature, it's just right to the ballot. Would you spearhead such an issue, or do you know anyone who would?
No, what I'd like to see is it go through the legislature. It's the proper course of why we have a legislature, is to make decisions like this. And I would say, and I've said this before, whatever happens in the 2012 election, Democrats take the majority or Republicans maintain the majority. I think if it doesn't pass in 12, it's going to pass in 13, regardless of who is in control of the chamber, because I think there will be enough change within the chamber that people will be able to pass it in 2013. So it's either going to happen in 12 or 13, and it's regardless of what happens with the outcome of who's holding that speaker's gavel.
Better be careful, because I think there's a fair amount of homosexual conservatives out there that if this passes, a lot of them will become open Republicans, which, by the way, I think is harder to come out of the closet being a gay man or as a Republican than being gay.
The thing I would love is that LGBT issues are not a partisan issue, and that we can fight on the real issues.
Mark, thank you. Thank you. Listen for me late nights on 850 KOA. Tell a friend. We'll see you next week.